Hello, everyone, and thank you all for joining us during the Lytham Partners Winter 2021 Investor Conference. My name is Ben Shamsian, Vice President of Lytham Partners. During this fireside chat, we welcome Banxa Holdings, ticker symbol BNXAF on the OTC and BNXA on the TSXV. Presenting from Banxa is founder and chairman Domenic Carosa. Before we begin, for those not familiar, Lytham Partners is one of the country's leading investor relations firm. With more than 2 decades of corporate access experience, we have built one of the industry's most diverse and effective platforms for connecting small cap companies with high quality and focused institutional investors, while creating a framework that best practices in all aspects of investor relations. Today's fireside chat is hopefully yet another example where we can bring value to multiple constituents. We will dive into questions in a moment, but one final item, I want to remind everyone that Banxa is available for one-on-one meetings later this week. If you have not already signed up, please send me an email at shamsian@lythampartners.com. That's SHAMSIAN@lythampartners.com, or visit lythampartners.com/virtual and click on the one-on-one meeting tab. With that said, Domenic, let's begin. Can we start with you providing a brief overview of the company and your background?
Thanks, Ben, for having me on the program today. In terms of background, very briefly, been involved in technology since mid-90s. Listed my first company on the Australian Stock Exchange in 2000, which I ran for 8 years, and then ran an early stage venture capital fund investing into SaaS. Got interested in crypto in 2013. The way my brain works, I need to do in order to learn. So I bought some mining equipment, bought some Bitcoin, and 6 months later, we launched bitcoin.com.au, which is a website that sells crypto to Australians. Fast forward to where we are today, Banxa solves a much bigger problem. We listed earlier this year on the TSXV and the OTCQX, and I'll talk more about our NASDAQ uplist shortly. But the whole premise around Banxa is that we're building a payments and compliance bridge between the fiat world, and when I say fiat, I mean US, Euro, Canadian world, with the digital asset world, being Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other coins. So as more and more people move and get exposure to digital assets, Banxa provides the payments and the compliance, and I can talk much more about why that's extremely important these days, in effectively facilitating those transactions. And the best way to look at Banxa, we're like the PayPal for the digital asset industry.
Got it. Thank you for that. What are the barriers to entry in this business?
They're actually quite significant. First and foremost, we've been running this business since 2014. We've invested significantly in our technology stack. A couple of the other ways that we create a moat or barriers to entry is that we own multiple VASP, virtual asset service provider licenses around the world that allow us to trade and operate within the confines of the law. They are effectively the equivalent in the US of the money transmitter licenses and the MSB. We own a number of them outside of the US, and in fact, we're also in the process of acquiring them in the US ourselves. And then next is really the partnerships, the API connections that we have with global crypto-to-crypto exchanges in the marketplace. For example, some of our customers include Binance and Huobi and OKX, and really, I think we've got about 50% of the top 30 crypto exchanges in the world currently using Banxa.
Thank you. Who are your customers, and why did they choose you versus other avenues or other competitors?
Banxa actually has the widest range of local payment methods. Most of our competitors offer credit card, and we've been offering credit card both in terms of MasterCard, Visa, and Apple Pay for many years, but it's the local payment methods like ACH in the US, Interact in Canada, Poly in Australia, Ideal in the Netherlands, and I could go on, that really provide ultimately a much better experience from a customer perspective, because local payment methods are faster and cheaper than credit card. And more importantly, for our customers, local payment methods have a higher conversion rate, because one of their key metrics internally is who basically provides the highest conversion rate. And that's one thing that I know Banxa has been really, punching above its weight in offering local payment methods. Coming back to the licensing regime, to be able to offer local licenses, you need to have a local company and a local bank account. As soon as you do that, you need to have a local VASP license. And that's really why these big exchanges and wallets are coming to us, is because we can not only process the payments, we can also manage all the regulatory and the compliance layer as well. And just to kind of give you some context, we have about 160 people in the company. 25% of those are in regulatory and compliance. So we've got a real strong focus on that part of the business.
Thank you. Continuing with customers, how many customers do you currently have, and what does that growth look like in 2022?
To date, we have around 80 B2B customers servicing millions of customers around the world. The potential is in the thousands. There are thousands of global exchanges and wallets, and now increasingly DeFi platforms and NFT platforms as well. Only in November, we signed up 20 new B2B customers. And it's really only in the last couple of months that we've really, let's call it, hit our stride when it comes to customer acquisition. We've now got a full complement sales team, including a head of sales, and we're getting much, much more aggressive in terms of customer acquisition.
Got it. Let's talk about geography. Where are you currently most active, and what geographies do you see as areas of growth going forward?
Maybe the best way to answer that question is really around our top 5 currencies are US, Canadian, Euro, GBP, as in Great British Pounds and Australian dollars. So they're really our 5 top currencies. Where we see significant growth are in emerging markets in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. And I think over the next 12 to 24 months, we will start to see new currencies becoming increasingly more important for the company, particularly in those emerging markets.
Great. You recently launched Offramp. Why is this so important, and why is it difficult to get it going, I guess?
That's a good question. The most focus of our business in the early days was fiat on-ramping, so people converting fiat money, US, Euro, Canadian dollars, into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other coins. And that made sense because more and more people want to get into the ecosystem. But as the industry is maturing, there is a requirement for what we call fiat off-ramping, that is taking your Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other coins and converting them into cash, basically getting cash into your bank account. We launched that only a couple of months ago. We're now starting to roll it out across to our partners. It's actually more challenging than on-ramps. This is why not many companies actually do this, is because it requires extra regulatory sign-off. And we've had to go and speak to the regulators in the key countries that we operate in to obtain those particular, let's call it, permissions to offer off-ramping. And then there's also a number of extra technical requirements. So, for example, if someone is selling us a coin, we need to do, apart from doing all the usual AML KYC, we also need to do things like checking for the provenance of the coin and the wallet to make sure it hasn't been used for nefarious purposes. So there's extra both compliance as well as technical steps, and we'd expect our fiat off-ramping part of the business to be growing in 2022.
Great. So the price of Bitcoin, Ethereum have been obviously volatile. How do you think about the correlation of transaction volume to the price of the currencies? And in addition, will that change as Offramp becomes a bigger piece of your business?
We're actually not correlated to the price of Bitcoin. Where our business is ultimately correlated is to the volatility. And so, in fact, volatility is our friend. And some of the biggest days that we've actually had in the company's history is when the price of Bitcoin has dropped 10 to 15%, like it did about a week or so ago. And so when there's volatility, that's actually music to our ears because people are buying the dip. And at the same time, as the price goes up, if there's a lot of new people getting into the space. We think the off-ramps will actually help further increase our TTV, our total transaction value, purely because when the price drops, I'm sure there'll be a percentage of people that would want to effectively go out to cash as opposed to going into a stable coin or another coin.
Got it. And finally, you've talked about going on the NASDAQ. Can you talk about the timing of that and why do you see it as an important step for the company?
The TSXV and the OTCQX were always a stepping stone to ultimately a NASDAQ listing. We have already engaged counsel in the US, and we would expect to uplist to NASDAQ early 2022. If I was a betting man, I'd say the end of the first quarter 2022.
Got it. Thank you, Dom. I appreciate your time today. To anyone out there who's not already signed up for a one-on-one, please send me an email at shamsian@lytham.com, lythampartners.com, or again, visit lythampartners.com/virtual and click the one-on-one meeting request button. We hope you all have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.